manage it. The stewardship kind of gets left to the wayside. But it's not that the municipalities or the state or that hate wildlife or don't want to see natural resource protection. It really does come down to the budgets. Let's face it. I mean, Chris said it before. I mean, everyone's broke. Where are you going to get the money? Well, there is a lot of opportunity out there that you just don't realize. There's grants and all that, but there's some things that, particularly with either ag communities, that you guys can tap into funding that's always been there, but I guess it's just been kind of under the radar. One of the things that Audubon tried to do over the last couple of years has been pretty successful with is kind of target certain areas along the Raritan in particular, some other areas up in the Musconetcong area, where the ag community didn't realize that they can apply for grants through NRCS or Farm Service. And it worked out. We helped them, assist them get into the programs and do the riparian stuff and grassland restoration and whatnot. But what came out of that is that a lot of the farmers said to us, I lease a lot of land from the municipalities and the state under the wildlife management areas and whatnot, and I'd love to try to get into the program, but I don't own the land. Well, it turns out that certain programs on under Farm Service anyway, the applicant, meaning the guy who leases the land, can actually apply for the funding, receive the funding, as long as he can show that he is in control of that land for the length of the contract. Now, what's all that mean? It basically means that when these people would get a lease from the municipality or from the county or state to farm the land, all right? A lot of times those leases were only 1 year, 2 year agreements. Some of them were even just handshake agreements, all right? But if they were able to apply for these programs and show that they had control and get a long-term lease, they're allowed to then apply the funding that's available to them under the Farm Service programs or Partners in Fish and Wildlife programs, those kind of things, to that property, and it doesn't cost the municipality or the actual landowner a dime. And the state of New Jersey finally figured this out about 2 years ago in managing their wildlife management areas. For years, those properties, and we're talking thousands of acres here, were being farmed with the handshake agreement that as far as they were concerned, if you left up 20% of your crops, that was going to be wildlife management for the farmer, and they can mow the lands and whatever, or plant crops, and that was the end of their management. Finally, the state said, my God, we're blowing this. We don't have the manpower, obviously, to go in and manage for invasive species or to put in habitat or do anything else. Let's write a real lease here where we're going to give these people the option of, we want you to do X, Y, and Z. All right? If you can't handle X, Y, and Z, we're only going to give you a short-term lease. But if you can do it more, which believe me, those farmers want, they want long-term leases. You had to enroll into some kind of program then to actually, do some of the management work. And it was well, at first it was a little bit rough. They had to work out some things because the Farm Bill did change up, and some programs you weren't allowed to apply on public lands. But there's two programs in particular that are very relevant to this. One is called SAFE, which is state state acres for wildlife enhancement. And the other one is called CREP, the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program. These are two programs that basically pay people to take areas out of production and more or less put them into some kind of buffers. The CREP one in particular is very good because it worries more about riparian areas, wetland areas for buffer protection, but they also create habitat as well. But they pay the farmer to do this. There's actual rental fees involved. There's actually, I think it's now up to like 100% reimbursable on the actual work getting done. This would all go to the farmer, But obviously, the municipalities or whoever's owning that land really reaps the benefits of this. And the state wildlife management area leases incorporated some language in there that I know a lot of the municipalities, when I go to talk to them, or a lot of the county-owned properties that own a lot of ag land along these riparian areas, they just leave it up to the lawyers to basically screw it up and say, well, we don't want to give these long-term leases. The amount of money that you are missing in this is astronomical. CREP alone has over $100 million for this state. It's been about, I think they've only used up 20 million, barely. And it's been around since 2004. Nobody signs up for them. They just don't. Because a lot of the farming community will not, on their own lands, take it out of production. Because there's a whole other thing with subsidy payments that I don't even want to get into. But on municipal lands, on state lands, where basically those lands are public lands. It's not there for agriculture all the time. You can easily combine the two. You can have your ag, but you can also have a little bit of habitat restoration or natural resource protection, but that farmer will benefit from it as well. We've done this successfully in several different municipalities. I'll tell you what, Reddington, recently, they have a farmer there who really started to get it, and this guy's been going around basically eating up all these lands for management. He benefits, the township benefits, and in the end, there was a huge cost savings down the line. Chris, before, he made a great point about the rain gardens. Phenomenal. And he said one thing, he goes, the average cost of some of the bigger rain gardens, I think he said it was around $2,000 for plants, more or less. Partners in Fish and Wildlife Service. It's a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, not the state, it's the feds. They have a program. In the booklets out there that you should have picked up, it talks about these programs, by the way. But the one in particular, if you're a municipality or a county or whatever, even a corporation, look for this one, Partners in Fish and Wildlife, because they don't give money. What they give is plant materials. They give a lot of them. Based on the actual situation you have when you're doing rain gardens or when you're doing large-scale restorations or riparian buffers, the contract that they offer out there basically is a 10-year contract. Again, you need a long-term lease, or the municipalities just have to get it through that they're going to be signing on to something for a long term. But they give you the plant materials. They give trees, they give bushes, they give native warm season grass seed. Okay? Some cases they'll even supply labor. They'll give nest boxes for birds. They'll also do sometimes herbicide applications depending on what it is, Phragmites in particular. They're real big on going out and killing Phragmites. And it doesn't cost the municipality or the county a dime. All right? The match is this. They give you the material, you got to figure out a way to plant them. But what I've seen and what we've used in the past, and again, Chris brought this up on his slide, Cub Scout groups, community organizations, volunteer groups. You want to talk about community engagement and having a sense of ownership into something? Put that out there. People love it. Those retention basins, I've seen tons of them now that are being converted over to putting in shrub areas on these things. No maintenance, reducing costs. They do work, but there is a lot of programs out there that you can tap into. I can imagine how many people even heard of Partners in Fish and Wildlife? Anybody? Yeah, a few. There's about 90 of you in here, and that was about maybe 10. This is a huge program that's being overlooked in New Jersey. It's a federal program, but here, take advantage of it. You want to hear something that's even funnier? Chris was bringing up the fact about the people out of prison basically getting put back out in society and helping out with the rain gardens. The plant materials that they give you, they're from Bayside Prison. They basically utilize the prisoners there in the greenhouses to grow these things, teach them how to do this, and then ultimately those plant materials go back out into across the landscape in New Jersey. It's a great situation all the way around. Another very big funding opportunity, especially for municipalities and for counties and whatnot on their private lands is the Corporate Wetlands Restoration Partnership, all right? This is an organization of corporations that basically, I'm talking some of the real big ones here in Jersey, Budweiser and Verizon, PSE&G and whatnot. They get together and they're under a federal program that they basically get to allocate money that they're donating out towards projects in the area that have to do with anything from wetlands to stormwater retention or any kind of water body. Again, things like that Chris brought up before about rain gardens, they funded tons of these. They funded dam removals. They've done stuff in urban areas. They love urban projects for any kind of riparian areas. They basically have a cap limit of about $50,000, and they like to see partnerships. So if you're coming in as a municipality with a proposal for doing work in a riparian area or a riparian enhancement, okay, make sure you have another partner, an NGO like an Audubon or Nature Conservancy or NJCF, one of these, bring those in as well. NRCS, the Natural Resource Conservation Service, Christine will be talking a little bit about them in a little bit. A huge, huge asset that needs to be tapped on a lot of different things. Their expertise is amazing on what they have. And a lot of it, particularly if you're in an agricultural area or you own agricultural lands that you're leasing, that information is free. No offense, but they got engineers on staff. They'll get, they do these things all day long for this, and they do have extremely good expertise to get out to the general public. And again, in situations that doesn't cost you a dime, and you might even find yourself into some kind of program with them. I guess really what to take away from all of this is that as much as you may think that the municipality or public-owned land, is not eligible for a lot of different things, you got to basically tap into some of the nonprofits to kind of, or an NRCS for that matter, to basically kind of understand what else is out there. There are other ways of getting these things funded. If you go away with anything today, I mean, honestly, the two books I gave out, the one from NRCS and the one that Audubon put together, a huge resource, and that we'd be more than happy to talk to anybody about as far as trying to get yourself funded. Any questions?
You mentioned this is for farmland, and the forestry land also comes under that, or not?
In some cases, yeah, sure. The Partners in Fish and Wildlife Program, they're open to anything that has to deal with a, what do you call it? They call it a federal trust species, but that could be migratory birds. So that's migratory birds in the forest, the wetlands, wherever they go. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you very much.